I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I started an eco-conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. So I don't just make pottery, I make resources for other potters wanting to be more eco-friendly in their pottery practice. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about sharing everything I've learned along my eco-conscious pottery journey with you. And I'm so glad you're here with me. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson and it's really nice to be here with you all today. What we're going to talk about today is the difference between earthenware and stoneware pottery. Because definitely when I first started making pottery, this differentiation really confused me, and my pottery teacher at evening classes was like, you've got to put your pottery in the right section, because we used to have two different sections for firing earthenware pottery and then firing stoneware pottery. And I used to be like, oh no, have I got the right clay and have I put it in the right section of the sort of kiln area, the ready to fire section. So that's what this episode really is all about, is to really sort of clarify the difference between the two. And I've written down the temperatures as well of stoneware and earthenware, so I'll be referring to those as well. So right, so let's get started. So essentially, there are loads of different types of clay in the world, and also clay, it can be made from a sort of composition of loads of different rocks and materials. So I actually make my own clay, and I make it from a combination of three different types of ball clay: china clay, feldspar, quartz, and that's it. So I mix all those together, and that's how I make like my casting slip. And when I've cast my work, I can then recycle that clay back into I can wedge it back into clay that I can use on the wheel, or I can partially recycle some of it back into slip. So those ingredients will have a certain point at which they melt. So the difference essentially between different types of clay is the point at which they start melting they'll essentially melt into a glaze. So the differentiation between earthenware and stoneware clay is that they just melt at different temperatures. So earthenware clay melts at a lower temperature than stoneware clay. So the combination of ingredients I just told you about that I use in my work, those melt at a higher temperature, which is, the range is the stoneware range of temperatures, basically. So you can call it a stoneware clay. So let me tell you the temperatures, and if clay starts to melt within these temperatures, then this is an earthenware clay. Okay, so earthenware clay would be a clay that started to melt if it got hotter than these temperatures. So earthenware clay is between 1000 and 1160 degrees Celsius. So if you're like heating clay hotter than that, it's going to start to melt if it's an earthenware clay. I'll give you the those temperatures in Fahrenheit as well. So that's so earthenware clay, it's 1832 to 2120 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so clay within those temperatures, if that's its kind of maximum point it can be heated, that's known as an earthenware clay. So I used to think that they looked different, so like there was the pottery I went to, we had like a red clay, and that was the earthenware clay we used. And it was only a bit later on that I realised that earthenware clay can actually be like white clay as well. So you can have clay, clay that looks like all sort of different colours can be earthenware or stoneware. So it's confusing in a way, because I was like, oh, I thought the red clay was earthenware, and then if it was like a whiter clay, so like a more nearer porcelain type looking clay, then it's stoneware. But that's actually not the case. So you can get white earthenware, you can get all different types of stoneware clay, ones with more iron in that might maybe look a bit like more brown, or more white, or there's terracotta clay, which in my pottery we use that was earthenware. So you really need to sort of, like, it will have on the bag, basically, if you're buying clay from a pottery supplier, it will have on the bag, is this stoneware, is this earthenware? It will tell you, and they'll classify the different clays. They'll be like, these are our earthenware clays and these are our stoneware clays. Okay, so for stoneware, let me tell you the temperature range for that. So that would be any clay that fires between 1000 and 1300 degrees Celsius. And in Fahrenheit, that's 1832 to 2372 Fahrenheit. So yeah, any hotter than that, and that stoneware clay will start melting, and it will mean that it will kind of go out of shape. Eventually it will just kind of like melt into a kind of like a blob on the kiln shelf. But stoneware firings are really the hottest type of firing that a potter would do. So it shouldn't get hotter than that, basically, in the kiln, because that is a stoneware firing, and that is like the hottest that clay would be fired to. So when we say like it's firing sort of its maximum firing temperature, what we're talking about is the temperature at which that clay kind of matures, it's known as, and that is when the clay molecules bond together and it becomes its maximum. They call it vitrification, when clay then stops letting water through. It stops becoming porous. Those clay molecules have fused together. So it's at that point, that is the point at which the clay reaches maturity. And then firing beyond that, those clay molecules, the clay body will start to melt. So I hope that's clarified the kind of difference between earthenware and stoneware. Basically, it's basically just the range of temperature at which that clay reaches maturity, and beyond that it will start to melt. So there's another factor to this, and this is the fact that glaze firings are divided into earthenware and stoneware glaze firings. So you might have heard people talking about low fire or high fire glazes. That's kind of like a term that's used in pottery. And low fire glazes, and you might have even heard people refer to like cone 6. That low fire, cone 6, earthenware, that's all the same temperature range. And then high fire, it would be like cone 8, cone 7, 8, 9, maybe not 7, it'll be like 8, 9, 10. Those are stoneware firing. That's the stoneware firing range of temperature. So cones, like some potters use cones, and what a cone is basically it melts at the point where the kiln has got like to the temperature that you want it. But if you're using like an electric kiln, lots of potters use an electric kiln, they'll have a programmer, like a temperature sensor inside generally. So that kiln will be telling you the temperature it's at, and cones are not something you would need. You would need a viewing window to use a cone, because otherwise you won't be able to see if the cone is melted, because that's what you're testing. You're like, is the cone melted? Oh, the kiln is the right temperature. So in terms of firings, you can fire any type of clay in an earthenware glaze firing. So that's because stoneware clay will be able to be fired absolutely fine in an earthenware glaze firing, because it can withstand higher temperatures than that. So but you cannot do it the other way around. So you cannot fire an earthenware clay in a stoneware glaze firing, and that's because it's too hot and the clay will disintegrate, it will start melting, basically. So let's go through the firing temperatures. So generally speaking, an earthenware glaze firing will be fired between 1020 degrees Celsius to 1180 degrees Celsius. So that will be the hottest that glaze firing will get in order to mature the clay and the glaze in that firing. So I'll give you those in Fahrenheit as well. That's 1,868 to 2,156 degrees Fahrenheit. So that range of temperature, that is the range of temperature of an earthenware firing. And like I said, you can fire any clay in an earthenware glaze firing. So if you see a really nice like earthenware glaze, and you're using a stoneware clay, absolutely fine. You could put that on and you can fire it. It's going to be absolutely fine. Okay. So let's go through what stoneware, the temperature range of a stoneware firing. So that will be between 1,180 degrees Celsius to 1,300 degrees Celsius. So that 1,300 degrees Celsius would be like a cone 10 or 11, right up to, that's like a porcelain type temperature you would fire porcelain to. So in terms of Fahrenheit, what temperatures that is Fahrenheit, it's 1,256 degrees to 2,372 degrees Fahrenheit. So so I fire my work actually in the kind of middle of that range, and I fire my work to 1,260 degrees, and that's the ideal temperature for the glaze I use, the ash glaze I use. It's a stoneware ash glaze. I use a stoneware clay that can withhold those temperatures, and doesn't melt. That's the temperature my clay and glaze needs to reach maturity for the glaze to melt. So I need that ash glaze, I need that, the minerals in the ash glaze to be melting, and that's the temperature at which that happens. And then I hold it there for 15 minutes, and then the kiln cools down. So if you're interested actually in a kiln schedule, like what a kiln schedule is and like what a kiln schedule would look like, I've done a whole podcast episode on that actually. And if you wanted to like look at a kiln schedule, like say you wanted to program a kiln and you think I would really like to know what the kiln needs to do basically to get up to bisque firing, or if you wanted to program like a stoneware glaze firing into your kiln, I have the kiln schedule in Eco-Conscious Pottery Glazing, and there's 17 glaze recipes in there that work with that kiln schedule, if you wanted to know that. So that's it really. I hope that's kind of clarified the difference. And I guess if you take one thing away, or maybe even just maybe two things away from this episode, it's really that so not all clay basically can be fired to all temperatures. So it's really just, if you want a clay that can be fired to all temperatures, earthenware and stoneware, then look for a stoneware clay, because that can be fired lower and that can be fired, it can be fired higher in stoneware temperatures. And really just to say, the only thing to remember really is don't fire earthenware clay too hot, otherwise it will melt. So if you're going to in a community setting, pottery setting, or an adult education setting, there might be two separate shelves, and they've probably already told you, maybe about the difference, where to put which clay sort of thing. But that's the only difference. I remember one time I actually asked my pottery teacher. She was really kind, when I used to go to evening classes, and I said, so we used this red clay, which was an earthenware clay, and I said to her, what would happen if I put it in a stoneware, stoneware glaze firing? Because I'd put this, I'd seen this really nice stoneware glaze, so I thought, right, okay, I'll put this on my earthenware pot. I asked her beforehand, could I fire this at stoneware temperatures? And she was like, well, the clay basically starts melting, so you can do at your peril, She's really kind, because now I realise that potentially could have ruined a kiln shelf or something, but melted on top of the kiln shelf. But she let me do it, and it was really interesting how it came out. So it was quite a strong structure, because it was like a bowl, and it was quite a thick bowl. made of like this beautiful kind of red earthenware clay, and I dipped it in this like really lovely, like really kind of delicate green kind of glaze, but it came out really strange. It was like the clay and glaze had started to kind of bubble, like the clay body had started to bubble. So I still have this bowl now. It went in kind of quite sort of, I guess, like perfect looking, but a lot more kind of polished, and it came out looking really strange, like all bubbly, a bit like, a bit like a sort of toad skin type sort of like look to it. So yeah, that was really cool. I realized that actually, although you can do stuff like that, it is good to kind of stick to the clay, the right clay and glaze, because otherwise it could just kind of look completely different as well, and you'll have that problem where it could potentially melt on a kiln shelf. So if it's fired too hot. But yeah, it does create like quite interesting results and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, no, it's been so nice talking to you about the difference between earthenware and stoneware. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode. And until then, very happy potting. Bye. So if you enjoyed that and you're interested to learn more about eco-conscious pottery, head over to the Oxford Clay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. I can't wait to see you there.